This video comes from my Archaeology Corroborates the Bible series. Entries in this series are based on the book Unearthing the Bible, written by Titus Kennedy. Kennedy looks at 101 archaeological discoveries that bring the Bible to life. Dr. Titus Kennedy is a professional field archaeologist, an adjunct professor at Biola University, a research fellow at Discovery Institute, and has been a consultant, writer, and guide for history and archaeology documentaries and curricula. Kennedy currently directs archaeological projects in Bible lands, and he has researched and photographed artifacts from around the world. Artifacts left behind from the vanished ancient world of the Bible have been found and recovered through archaeology. What is an artifact? In simple terms, an artifact is an ancient object made or modified by humans, and many have been found, especially in recent years, at archaeological sites around the world. Artifacts include statues, altars, jewelry, weapons, tools, inscriptions, paintings, coins, scarabs, tablets, papyri, stele, reliefs, and pottery, showcasing the artistic and technological prowess of the ancients. But more importantly, artifacts tell stories of the past. They serve as both visual and informational aids that provide insight into that ancient context and toward an accurate understanding and interpretation. The Bible is a collection of books written millennia ago in places and cultures far removed from modern readers, but artifacts can give us essential knowledge of the ancient world and help us avoid the problem of unconsciously or inadvertently viewing a passage or book in the context of a modern society and time. Because the Bible contains stories from the ancient world, written in a style different than the method of modern historians and paired with theology, many have assumed that the narratives in the Bible are myth, legend, and propaganda instead of accurate history. In fact, the majority of scholars, most media and educational sources, and many in the general public regard the Bible as a fairy tale and frequently portray it as unimportant or irrelevant beyond literary and religious studies. For years, the Bible has been routinely attacked and disregarded on the basis of history or archaeology. And yet, when people look into what archaeologists have unearthed, a different story comes to light, showing that instead of fiction and fairy tales, archaeology indicates that the Bible preserves an accurate recounting of the history addressed in its pages. Specifically, hundreds of artifacts from the distant past have demonstrated the events, people, and places in the Bible to be historical. Stele of Hammurabi, carved from basalt and standing 2.25 meters or 7.5 feet tall, was inscribed with 282 laws in Old Akkadian from the famous 18th century BC Code of Hammurabi. It was found during excavations at ancient Susa, but the stele was probably transported from its original location in Sippar to the place of its discovery in Susa by the Elamites in the 12th century BC. A stele is a monument, stone, or wooden slab erected for commemorative purposes, usually inscribed with writing and decoration, and occasionally painted. The image at the top of the stele shows the sun god Shamash, associated with justice, seated on a throne, and Hammurabi, king of Babylon, standing in front of him. According to the epilogue, anyone could come to read the stele, and it was probably erected in a public area. Composed around 1750 BC, the code contains information from the era about contracts, social customs, punishments, and economics. Since the code is from the approximate time of Jacob and Joseph, the laws, customs, and prices found in the code reflect information and customs from that period that are also found in the book of Genesis, such as premier status being given to the son of the first wife regardless of birth order, or the loss of birthright due to offense against the family. So here's this extra-biblical archaeological artifact that shows that some of the facts that are listed contemporary to the time of the book of Genesis are in fact historical for the time. Laws 170 and 171 state to give the inheritance portion to the son of the first wife, not the son of the female slave, which is also reflected in Genesis when Isaac was made the heir because he was born of Sarah, even though Ishmael had been chronologically the firstborn son but was born to Hagar the slave. Many years later, Reuben lost his firstborn rights due to the serious offense against the family of defiling his father's bed. In the Code of Hammurabi, Laws 158, 168, and 169 contain rules and customs about loss of the birthright due to this same serious offense against the family. When Joseph was sold into slavery to Ishmaelite traders only decades after the reign of Hammurabi, his purchase price was shekels, which is also the exact value of a slave stated by the Code of Hammurabi in Laws 116, 214, and 252. Earlier law codes state lower prices, such as that of Ur Nammu in about 2050 BC, where the value of a slave was 10 shekels, then 15 shekels in the Laws of Eshnunna about 1930 BC. Prices continued to increase, and after the time of Hammurabi, we find examples of 30 shekels at Ugarit in the 14th century BC and 50 shekels in Assyria during the 8th century BC. The data shows that prices differed according to time period, and the Code of Hammurabi demonstrates that the slave price of 20 shekels paid for Joseph and recorded in Genesis coincides with the approximate time of Hammurabi in the 18th century BC, which is also the date determined for Joseph using the chronological information found in the Bible. The laws, customs, and prices found in the Code of Hammurabi from the 18th century BC in the Middle Bronze Age and the patriarchal narratives from the time of Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph in Genesis suggest that the events occurred in the same period and accurately reflect conditions of that specific time. Genesis 37, verse 28 says, quote, "Then Midianite traders passed by, and so the brothers pulled Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver, and they took Joseph to Egypt." Genesis 37:28. So the Stele of Hammurabi corroborates facts that are depicted in